Why do we need moisturizers for dry skin? Why can't we just use water? And in fact, how does water seem to make things worse? And why does soap make things even worse again? And are expensive moisturizers really better than cheap ones? If you spend a long time in a dry environment, for example, a warm room in winter or a long-haul flight perhaps, you will start to feel your skin drying out. And water seems to make things worse, and soap makes it even worse than that. So what's going on? Well, let's start by taking a look at skin. It's made of 3 principal layers, but we're going to focus on the top layer, the epidermis. At the bottom of the epidermis, cells called keratinocytes are formed, and they are steadily pushed towards the surface where they die and harden and form a protective layer that protects the rest of the skin from bumps and scrapes and attackers. And this layer is called the stratum corneum. This layer has many jobs, but crucially for our discussion, one of the things it does is to regulate the skin's water content by keeping outside water out and inside water in. It does this by releasing hydrophobic fatty oils, which act as a simple barrier to water. And these oils get released from our hair follicles, either when we sleep or when we sweat. Another important point is that the cells of the stratum corneum are held together by protein fibers called desmosomes. And as the cells are pushed towards the surface, those desmosomes are cut by enzymes, biological catalysts. And this allows those cells to flake off and make your room dusty. That's basically what house dust is. Crucially, water coming up from underneath the epidermis is crucial for allowing these enzymes to function and cut away those dead cells, but also for the immunological processes involved in fighting bacteria and fungi. So we need a certain water content for a healthy and smooth skin. But when your skin dries out, these enzymes can't work, and your skin starts to flake off in large pieces. So to sum up, healthy skin has a layer of oils which maintains the skin's moisture content, which enables the skin to perform its complex chemistry and stay healthy. Should have just said that. But this is where soap and water can cause a problem. Very simply, soap just dissolves the fatty oils because that's what soap is supposed to do, and water will wash away at least some of them because they aren't completely hydrophobic. Now, the pH or the acidity of soaps and hand washes seems to be important, and there's a kind of hand-wavy explanation that goes, well, the pH of your skin is 5, so the pH of your face wash should also be 5. But I think it's kind of simpler than that. I think it's simply that soaps have a high pH between 8 and 10, and for you chemists, that means it deprotonates the fatty oils. For everybody else, it simply means high pH soaps are better at dissolving the fatty oils. So that is how soaps and water can dry your skin. So what is in moisturizers that stops that from happening? Just before we get down to the chemistry, if you're enjoying this, a quick click of the like button will help the channel out. Thanks. So how do moisturizers keep your skin moisturized? The principal ingredient of any moisturizer is aqua, also known as water. It's not there to moisturize your skin really, it's actually there to make a moisturizer into a nice cream rather than some kind of gooey paste. The next and probably most important ingredient is a category of chemicals called occlusives. Now, these are basically just fatty oils that are there to replace the ones you've just washed out. And in fact, that's why moisturizers are white. They're white because of tiny blobs of fat mixed in with the water in an emulsion. In fact, that's basically what an emulsion is. But in fact, the best kind of occlusion is simple petroleum jelly, also called paraffinium liquidium, basically grease. But people don't like putting that on their skin because it feels greasy, but it works great in lip balm though. So water and fatty oils are the main ingredients of moisturizers, but there are other chemicals in there too, which may or may not be so helpful. A class of chemicals called humectants are simply hydrophilic molecules. In other words, water sticks to them. Their job is simply to slow down the rate of evaporation from the skin. At humidities over 80%, they can draw in water directly from the atmosphere, but in my experience, at over 80% humidity, you really aren't worried about dry skin. The most common humectant is simple glycerin. It's cheap and widely available, but there are other chemicals used as well. Humectants can also have a temporary anti-wrinkle effect because they bring in so much water, the skin cells swell, and this can close up some very fine wrinkles. There does appear to be some debate, however, as to whether humectants really make water more available to the skin for skin chemistry, or whether they simply just lock it up. Related to the humectants are the alpha and the beta hydroxy acids. Now for the chemists, they are simply carboxylic acids with a hydroxy group in the alpha or beta position. But for the rest of us, they're not very special. In fact, one of the most common AHAs used in moisturizers is lactic acid, which is what makes yogurt sour. Now, it's postulated that alpha hydroxy acids help break down the desmosome proteins that link your dead skin cells and stop them from flaking off. But it's also postulated that they just work as a humectant, which swells your skin cells up and makes it look smoother. The third class of ingredients are emollients. They are simply unsaturated fats, the kind of thing that you get from avocados or margarine spreads. And these fats feel kind of nice on your skin. And what they do very simply is they just fill in the gaps between your dead skin cells and make it feel nice and smooth. But people will pay a lot of money for an avocado skin treatment. And stick the word organic on the front and they'll pay even more. The fourth class of ingredients are preservatives, things like EDTA, which sounds scary because it's letters. But moisturizers are full of water and fats, things that bacteria and fungi love to eat. And if you don't want your jojoba oil emollient to oxidize and stink, then you are going to need some preservatives in your moisturizer. Now everything else, things like vitamins, or certainly many of the fancy-pantsy sounding names that appear on the front of the tiny little jars, just seems to be doing either the same jobs that the simpler chemicals could be doing, or are there literally for the marketing. So how about you? Do you have any tips for keeping your skin young and smooth looking? Or perhaps you've seen some particularly egregious examples of marketing on moisturizer tiny pots? Let me know in the comments. And if you like things that are very cheap but get sold for unaccountably large amounts of money, why don't you check out my video on the chemistry of crystals? See you next time.